Let me go ahead and get Sweeney in there. Who broke the home? Men walking away or women choosing wrong?
I would argue it's probably a combination of both. Um, societal wise, I think freedom broke the home. When you give people the ability to do what they want, they're going to do what they want. And what has happened over the last 50, 60 years is that people found reasons to leave their marriages and their relationships and no longer feel that they have to commit to one another, even if there is a child there. You know what I mean? Like think about how many excuses people come up with to not deal with somebody beyond a sexual encounter. And like I said, I always say this, especially nowadays, sex has become the sex is the forethought and everything else is an afterthought. Whether you should get married or not, whether the person is the right person to be around, whether the person is the right person to even have children with, is all an afterthought. You think about, oh snap, should I be having a child with this person after you already conceived? So, and people have to, and like I said, people have the freedom to walk away. You don't have to be with somebody no more. Especially, there's no requirement for marriage no more. There's no social push for marriage between two people. In fact, I will argue that there's a social push that those people leave one another because people will tell you, regardless of your reason. Now we understand like the worst parts of the Bible that people pretty much are all in alignment on that you should leave someone for. But oftentimes that ain't always that. Most of the time when I hear people say or give advice that someone should leave, they actually catastrophize. I don't even know if that's a goddamn word.
Bruh.
They all I'm gonna use it anyway because I like it. They all they often catastrophize the smallest things. Like a guy coming, a woman to come into the chat and be like, "Hey, look, man, me and my husband got into it this weekend because I really needed his help doing the laundry, and I know he normally doesn't do the laundry, but this weekend I really needed his help, and he just told me no." And then the whole comment section be, "Girl, you should leave him. He narcissistic. He don't care about you." I'm like, God damn. Like over some laundry, there ain't no conversation. You know, back then people used to actually give you real tangible advice in relationships. I would argue, I think the reason why they was able to give real tangible advice is because they were in relationships. Most of the time when people out for advice, who are they getting advice from?
Other single people.
You ain't getting advice from people who are in relationships or married or any of that shit. You're getting advice from a bunch of single people who love to see you in the same scenario that they in.
Misery loves company.
Now, and the reason why I say this, because I seen both shaking their head, is because we know that majority of, especially in our community, majority of us ain't married. So by sheer numbers, if you go online and you post something about your situation, more than likely, almost 70% of those people are going to be people who aren't married, who want to tell you, give you advice on your marriage or your relationship. And I think right now the single rate, I know the marriage rate is about 30%, but I think over half of people are literally single. Nobody, not even in a relationship. They just single as French toast. So I think freedom broke the home. Y'all, everybody can do whatever the hell they want to do. They don't have to be there. I don't have to be with you if I don't want to be with you. As a matter of fact, for example, Umar is a prime example of that because I was sitting there listening to him and I'm like, what was so bad about her that you couldn't marry her? Like, what was wrong with her? He didn't say, man, she wasn't. Now, he didn't say, man, this woman wasn't she. He said, man, I didn't want to get married.
But she was good. Like, he was excited to be a father to the child, though.
Because I don't think his sexual discipline was the problem. Your choices afterwards was the problem.
Yeah. And do you think that's part of the reason why there might be animosity?
Yeah, if I was her, I would have been pissed. Like, wait a minute, so we gonna have this baby, and you telling me like and then like if you think about it now, I can't say that there probably is possibly some fault on her end, but 18, that girl 18 years old, 18 or 16, 17, 18, I don't know. That's way too many years to go by for you to tell me that you like what you gave up in the first couple years.
Sweetie, real quick, do you think that there's just something that he's not mentioning or does not want to mention that could be wrong with her, judging by some of his claims that he made as of late? Do you think that there could have been an underlying issue that he just really wanted to avoid being tethered to that woman for life?
Potentially, yeah. But I don't know. I think he just might not be very pro marriage though. I mean, it says it in his actions. He's ran into several women that are marriage material by this point. He's still not married. You don't
Yeah.
get the 40 like I get it. If she wasn't marriage material, who are you going? And I would accept that if she wasn't marriage material, okay, I accept that. But from what I'm seeing in regards to the way that he behaves in relationships, he's not very pro marriage, at least in the
Well,
legal sense.
he might just be led with his loins. Who knows? I mean, judging from, maybe he just don't want to be married.
But Smooth, let's say there is something wrong with her. Why is he doing an act that would tether him and her forever?
Yeah, I don't think. See, most people when they are pursuing a woman, right, particularly sexually, they're not thinking of parenting with that one. They thinking they pull out game is going to be good enough to not fertilize the egg, and that's the issue.
Is that a cultural thing, or is that just men always thing?
What, the
Because that's
pull-out
not
game?
consistent.
Are you talking about the pull out specifically?
Well, yes, but this idea of, I'm not trying to really be with this person forever. My pull-out game is strong. I'm just
So
that's
like
just
the first you're no, it's not a man thing. That's a human thing, right? Because these females know what's up. They know that there's a high probability that they will probably get pregnant, and if they haven't had those types of discussions of what's going to happen next, if that were to happen, then you're just being irresponsible, right? But it takes two to tango. They're both irresponsible for that. Now, I don't know why he did that in particular, but he's from what Sweeney is saying, probably not marriage minded, and I could believe that because at this age, I'm pretty sure there was some woman who would have married him, right? He's a pretty accomplished man.
Absolutely.
He's not disfigured. He looks like he's fits at least the height threshold for most women. So, and he's probably got a decent amount of money, right? So it's like, yeah, he could probably find a wife if that's what he really wanted. But he's saying he wants multiple wives. So maybe that might make it more difficult for him to find two women that would agree to that, because maybe he's not that kind of guy that could accomplish that. So that could be in a way.
All right, let me get Lasia in there. Who broke the home, Lasia?
Okay. So I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, and I'm gonna say that the problem that I have with the question in general is the statement home, because it seems like everybody only wants to tie the word home to marriage. And I believe that you can have a great home without it being a marriage, because I am a product of that. Like, I had a two-parent household. My father never missed an event. My father lived with us. My father took care of the home. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my parents never married, even though my dad asked. She just felt like certain things about it. She wasn't with being like paperwork tied to him. And a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel like we don't have to have marriage, and maybe that's where Dr. Umar was saying that, like, um his issue comes in with, I would have been a great father and I could have been around and I could have been a part of this family, but the fact that it required a contractual agreement, the fact that you needed, I guess, like, other people to validate us is crazy to some people, right? With that being said, I personally think it's not even about how a woman gatekeeps. What I think becomes the problem is that the home becomes broken when he walks away, because that woman won't walk away. You can have a perfectly good home if you guys both indulged in sexual activity, with no regard in making a life. You that wasn't your purpose in trying to do that, right? But you did it. Now, if you both can still agree that, like, okay, we did it, I'm going to take accountability for it. Boom. Now we have a home. I don't think you have to go into laying down with somebody with the pre-notion that, like, oh, before we lay down, do you think I'm a good fit to be a parent? Would you like to parent with me? Like, no, because I didn't do that. And I still got the same person right next to me. We made more kids. Like, it was the fact of, like, we looked at our consequences and then we said, oh, well, okay, we did this. So now we're going to, like, uphold ourselves to it. So it is kind of like what Sweeney said. It's the freedom to be able to walk away, because you don't have to be like, okay, I did it. But if one of you walk away, then that's where the broken home comes from, not because of what you did.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, go ahead.
Who's more likely to have a broken home? A married couple or a cohabitating couple?
I was exactly going to ask that.
I mean, yeah, a cohabitating couple would definitely is likely to have a broken home. What I'm more so saying is that it can turn into something else.
Okay. Should I go since I interrupted her?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. She was done. I ain't interrupted. Who broke the home? Well, I would say roughly 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. The majority are not due to abuse or abandonment, but dissatisfaction, pursuit of independence, and perceived misalignment. This aligns with the pattern of women selecting men based on emotion or societal programming, rather than divine order or masculine leadership. And DNA paternity tests became widely available and commercially viable in the 1980s, with increasing accuracy and accessibility by the 1990s. Was it? Yeah, 1990s. Before that, paternity was largely based on trust, marriage presumptions, or circumstantial evidence. So, what was once assumed under covenant, the child is my husband's, was replaced by scientific proof, shattering that last sacred bond of trust. So, DNA testing didn't break the home; it revealed the home was already broken. And I'm gonna argue that it was broken by deceit, infidelity, and again, rebellion against divine order. So I believe that's what broke the home. And women were rebelling against divine order. So women broke the home.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
ask you, so when someone says they're married, right? I personally don't think that once you say you're married, anyone cares whether you got married before or after the child. Because there are plenty of people that are in a thriving environment with their kids, has a husband, and we don't know if the kids were at the wedding or if the kids were baking in the oven. Like, I don't think that it's necessary. Like I'm saying, I don't think it's about, like,
Did you consider the time it took from the time they had the baby to the time they walked to the altar? Because who knows?
Oh, wow.
Maybe they had the baby and then got married 4 years later, and everybody
Wow.
was pissed at them for 4 years. But then after they got married, all of that didn't even matter anymore. So it all is all contingent upon how swiftly they reacted to having a child. Did they go get the baby, or did they just try to wing it out?
Wow. So, question, because if you get pregnant and then you're like, okay, or if we get pregnant and the baby is here and then we get married, do you think that that decision is more reacting to the consequence versus if you walk in it intentionally, you're able to, when you actually do get married, it's an intentional choice to come into divine union instead of, oh, well, this is a consequence
When you say consequence,
or
are you
convenience.
referring to the guilt and conviction you feel for having a child out of wedlock, or just
No, yeah, exactly. Like we were just having fun.
so
And
yeah,
then
I would
now
argue that most of the time, more often than not, people feel more compelled to get married
because of the child.
after having a kid. Oops,
Yeah.
baby,
An oopsie baby. And
because
that,
of the external shame.
yeah. And also what you brought up about paternity. If a woman is being promiscuous and she has an oopsie baby, right? Getting married is a way of not necessarily coming into divine order, but security, right? Like,
or concealment if she's promiscuous, because she's concealing the fact that she don't. And let's just talk about it pre-scientific test or
Yeah.
a biological test.
yeah,
These women were concealing it. They knew that somebody else been in there. There's no way a woman can't remember that somebody inserted into her. You get what I'm saying? But the concealment was to, okay, let's hurry up and get married. Or
I see.
it
Right.
didn't even really
Right.
have to go to that extreme. It's just, you are the father because I've
Right.
only been with you.
Right.
So men were, we're just going by her word. It was
Right.
nothing else we can do. We
Right.
really couldn't do it unless we stuck around long enough to see that, okay, he looks more like my cousin, not me.
Yeah.
Or he looks more like my best friend, or he looks more like your boss at work.
Right. But there was
And then
no,
that's whenever the
yeah.
house broken. But now that we got scientific data, you know what I'm saying? It's even then, like, you got some idiots out here that's signing birth certificates, not getting DNA tests.
Yeah. And that,
So
yeah.
it's a lot of nuances. Even though we was able to get the scientific test put in place, it's still a lot of nuances. You got to deal with a woman that feel like it's an insult. Why would you want to test? What?
So,
Why would you want to test me? Who do you think I am?
so
So
in
you gotta kind of go ahead.
in Lashia's example, right? She's saying that you can still build a home with some, or Laisha's example. She's saying that you can still build a home with someone without the promise of a contractual agreement like marriage. How do you, what is your answer to that when you have things like paternity fraud happening? Do you think then not getting married is a better form of protection for men to avoid paternity fraud? What are your thoughts?
I don't think fraternity fraud or being able to evade it or elude it is contingent upon whether you sign a marriage certificate. I think
Like,
you can still be victim of fraternity fraud regardless of whether you're married.
but
They
it's easier to walk
they
away.
just
if you're
recently
not
we had a conversation where guys were just getting name dropped somewhere in Detroit. Was it Cincinnati or Detroit or somewhere? Some woman was just writing random names on there that she never even knew, and they were hit with child support bills, and they had to go to court. And like, I never even knew that. And the woman admitted, she was like, "Yeah, I don't know who. I just thought of a name and something. Luckily, she targeted somebody within the state. So he found out he was behind in child support. So and now since
wasn't
they
no
never
luck.
even interacted in person. So let alone whether you're girlfriend and boyfriend. So one could argue that the system, I think to one of the ladies' part, it wasn't just woman alone or man alone, so to speak. The laws and systems it's almost like somebody sitting over there playing a video game and just fucking with our lives when they
Holy
was creating these
crap.
laws. And they probably laughing at the top like, let's put this law in place to see how these idiots behave.
Well, the law takes a very long time to keep up with society and technology and all of these changes. So, like, if you're not getting married, these laws are in place to ensure that we don't have a society of childless or like fatherless children. So,
So I
In
would
all
say-
honesty, I think it has the opposite effect.
the law is
I think it actually has the
slow.
opposite
you think
effect
the
because
law? Okay.
yes, because when you think about it, women are generally incentivized to leave. That's why they
that's
do
good.
at such a high clip, right? And when females have a very large support system afterward. So you can literally run into a guy, get knocked up by the right guy, leave, and cash out. Right. So
That's
that's the problem.
crazy.
And now everything is offered what? Free schooling, what? Section 8, what? Food stamps, all this. What? There's so many things that come into play when you decide that you're not going to have a man, and they won't give you any of that if you have a man in your life, regardless of your income. So you tell me what you would say to that, because that to me looks like it's incentivizing broken homes more than not.
I could see that. I think women just wouldn't have children because that's a lot to go through. To be
But
Yeah.
forever
So
dependent.
to that, the
what
other,
do you?
Like that's why the abortion rate is so high because of economic reasons. Why would I want to be forever embedded to the government like that? Like
the other
it
side
feels
to
like
that is the
I-
other side to that
I'm
is if the woman is able to get the man to marry her, knowing she had
yeah,
extra relationship
relations.
intercourse with somebody else,
Mhm.
the likelihood of the man staying with her is increased so long as she can conceal it for a long time, because the man would develop a connection with
To
the
the
child from birth up until the time you find out. So he would. It's an increase. I'm not saying it's a high likelihood, but it's an increased likelihood versus not that. Well, I'm married to her, and yeah, I'm already married. We'd already had this history, and I've been raising this boy for 5 years. So you know
Yeah.
what? Even though I'm mad, I love the boy. I'm in love
Yeah.
with my son.
Yeah.
Even though you even see it on countless episodes of
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Men are still saying, you know what?
I'm still gonna be there.
I know it's wrong, but that's my son.
Yeah.
So,
So is that
so
wrong?
women are, that's a manipulation tactic on a woman. That's what a woman is banking on. Even though she know it's wrong, and we all know it's wrong. Even the brother sitting on the sideline know he shouldn't do that. But that is part of the manipulation process. Let's get him married. He's already fathered in or grandfathered in. He's already grandfathered into an emotional connection with the child. So when he does find out, the likelihood of him forgiving me and continue to stay is increased.
So would you think it's morally correct for him to walk away if he finds out he's not the father?
Me personally, I think it's morally correct to walk away.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that primarily is because of respect. Based on my experience, if this wasn't the case, if he was able to maintain his respect from a woman and from all of his peers and everybody else on the outside, then I would be maybe on the fence, or I would say it's up to his discretion. But because I know, based off of my understanding and research, that he lose a ton of respect of sticking around with a woman after revealing that she was knocked up by this dude, yes, I think it's morally right for him to walk away.
Does everyone else agree too? It's morally correct for that man to walk away if he finds out he is not the biological father?
I would say absolutely. Not necessarily because of outside influence, but just my own principle. That's that's probably the worst form of betrayal that you can probably get from a wife. In all honesty, there's not very much worse than she can do than to bear another man's child while that's your wife. That's insane. Like
The other layer,
there's no coming back from that.
and the reason why I said respect, I stated primarily. Obviously, there's other layers. There's like, okay, once you continue to stay with this woman, like me personally, I don't think there's no way I can ever trust her. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no way I can ever trust. Every time I look at the boy, every time we get in an argument and get mad, I'm validating cheating. Like I'm gonna feel like I'm justified to do what I want, and any given point, if I feel like I'm disrespected or I'm slighted. You know what I'm saying? I might have a nightmare, and my nightmare might be I came home and she was banging a dude out. I wake up at 12 in the morning and I just justify going to go cheat based off a nightmare. So it's so many
Not
psychological
too mad at her
games.
for what she did in the dream, though.
I'm telling you. And listen, it might sound like I'm making this up, but these are experiences that were shared to me.
Wow.
That's why I'm
But
able
this is
to
actually,
spit it out.
I think y'all might be getting into it. This is actually, if it actually happened, then not like just out of the blue, we just have a dream. I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm not going.
No,
You know,
this was communicated to me. Like
no. I'm asking. No, not for you. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm asking. This is after an incident actually happened.
Woo!
not just out of the blue,
Right.
just
Well, yeah, no,
on the basis of a dream alone.
Had a
Right,
baby,
right,
wouldn't do
right,
all that took
right.
place. It's all confirmed.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But what
Yeah,
about
this
the
is after the
okay,
fact.